Hello, Andrea, and
Hi, how are you doing?
very good. And we are super happy to have you here to talk to us about CloudWatch metrics insights. Before we get into all of those fun things, tell us who you are, what do you do, and well, where do you join us from, and why should we care?
It's a pleasure to meet everybody. I'm Andrea. I'm an engineer in AWS CloudWatch, and today I'm joining from Ireland.
Ireland. Oh, nice, very good. I used to live in Dublin for 2.5 years, so hello, Ireland. And we also have Omur. I didn't know we were going to have Omur join us. So Omur, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us the same things we asked Andrea. Where do you join us from? What do you do? And why should we care?
Yeah, so I'm the product manager at AWS, working with Andrea from Dublin. But today I'm in Vegas, came for reInvent here, joining the session from hotel. Yep.
Excellent. Thank you both for joining us here. Now, okay, so I mentioned the name. CloudWatch Metrics Insights. What are we launching today?
So CloudWatch Metrics Insights is a fast, flexible SQL-based query engine that allows customers to flexibly analyze, group, and aggregate their metrics at scale in real time to reduce mean time to resolution.
So what kind of problems does this solve to us, right? So I understand we have SQL language now to do something with metrics. So what kind of problems does this solve to our customers?
So, customers the customer environments are getting more complex, and there are more things to monitor. They are looking for ways to extract more value out of this ever-growing data. And on top of that one, they are trying to organize their resources into more meaningful physical and logical groups by assigning labels such as environments like production or development or application name or versions. So they need their monitoring environment to surface all of these labels such that these labels are going to help them to analyze their metrics in a more meaningful way, such that they're going to be able to resolve their operational issues quickly. And on top of that, the short-lived resources in these new environments, they require faster monitoring and troubleshooting than before. So Metrics Insights addresses all of these pain points individually to help customers to reduce their mean time to resolution.
Excellent. And I always like to ask this is like, how did customers used to do this before, right? We solved the problem, but what steps did the customers need to take to get the same outcomes as Metrics Insights gives us now?
So it is easy to get on board and use Metrics Insights. It is based on SQL query language, so it is one of the most commonly used query languages in analytics. And even if they don't know SQL language, they can get started with Metrics Insights using the Visual Query Builder. So to use Query Builder, all they need to do is just select the metrics that is out of interest, their resource names and labels visually, and the console automatically constructs their queries for them based on their selections. And later on, if they want to use the metric editor, where they can type in their raw SQL queries anytime, if they want to dive deep and start pinpointing issues to the finest granular detail. And also Metrics Insights comes with a set of out-of-the-box sample queries that enables them to start monitoring and investigating their application performance instantly by just a single click. When I say single click, I really mean it. It's that much easy.
Okay, good. We're going to look at that a bit later on.
Sure.
We're going to hold you to that one, Omur.
Seeing is believing, yep.
Good. So, actually, Andrea, do you have a demo for us, right? So let's show us how this looks like, and we can show the developers here in chat, in the audience, to see how this works. So I'm going to bring up your screen share right now.
Thanks.
Boom. Okay. Can you make this a bit bigger? Can you just zoom in uncomfortably?
Yes.
Good.
Perfect. Okay, so first of all, thanks for having me today. So I'll have the pleasure to show you the Metrics Insights capabilities in CloudWatch. So the account that we logged in today is owned by an online bookstore company that sells books to customers located all around the world. And today we want to do some daily audit for our service. To do this, we're going to be using CloudWatch metrics. So the first thing I'm going to do is I will move to the metrics page here, and you can see we have different metrics published. So to do my daily audit, I will go into my online bookstore namespace, and I want to see the overall latency for my service.
Okay.
So I will click here on overall latency, and I can see that I have something going on. So I have my latency that went from around 200 milliseconds to more than 1 second. So the first thing I want to do is, let me make this more granular. So I will change the period to be 1 minute so I can see more granularity into my metric. And now to give you some context, right? So this company I'm logged in owns a fleet that is running on classic EC2 instances, but also on ECS containers. So I want to understand where this problem is generating. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I want to see whether there is anything wrong with my EC2 classic instances. So I will do that by using CloudWatch Metrics Insights. So I can click on the Query tab here, and I can see a new Metrics Insights Query Builder. So with this metric query builder, I can fill in the namespace, metric name, different information to query my metric. But I really want CloudWatch to help me solving the issue a little bit faster with a single click. So what I can do is I can click on Add Query, and I can see that CloudWatch generates some smart queries for me. So I'm interested into EC2 metrics, and I want to graph the top 10 instances by the highest CPU utilization. So just by clicking that button, I can see that my Metrics Insights Query Builder is pre-filled for me with some metrics, some aggregation, and some discriminant that I'm going to be using, for instance, the instance ID. Okay, so now if I move to the graphed metrics here, I can see that I have two rows, one showing the latency, one showing the query that I'm executing. And I'm now going to be moving the latency on the right-hand side to see the CPU in appropriate scale. So here I can see there is nothing really going on with my EC2 instances. They're running fine, so less than 10%. So I can actually exclude the EC2 instance for my equation. So the problem is not located there. But what I can do now is I can go to Metrics Insights, and what I can do is I can now start to look into my ECS metrics.
Okay.
So to do that, I'm not going to be using the add query for a second, but instead I can actually start interacting with the query builder. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I'm going to do is I can select the namespace here, and I can see that there are different metrics that are published into my account. I'm interested into ECS, so I'm going to select that. And I'm also interested into metrics that report the cluster name and the service name, because I may have multiple clusters, multiple services within the cluster, and I want to see where the problem is located. And then in the metric name, I'm going to be choosing an aggregation function. So I want the average of CPU utilization. So now graphing this metric, I can see that there is my latency that is going up, and I can see the average CPU utilization across all my cluster is trending up more than 60%. So I can actually start to understand that my problem is located to my ECS cluster, but I still don't know where, because this is the average CPU utilization across all the clusters that I have, all the services that I have, and there may be many. So to narrow down further, what I can ask Metrics Insights Query Builder to do for me is to group this metric by cluster. So I can actually see whether this problem is located in one cluster or spread across all the clusters that I have. If I hit the Run button, I can see here I have two different clusters, a dev ordering cluster and a prod ordering cluster. So the development cluster is actually running fine, and I can see that the problem seems to be located into one of the two clusters that I have, and it's also the production cluster. So once I know that, what I can do is I can reduce the scope by using the filter by aggregation. So I can filter by cluster name. I can set this to be equals to the production ordering cluster. And now in the group by, I can group by the service name. Now, an interesting bit I can do here is, since I may have multiple services, I want to make them ordered. I want to pinpoint the issue. So I can use the order by selector for that. And I can use the max order function, and I can order in descending order, and I can limit to the top 5 services. Once I run this query, I can see a very nice picture here that is telling me I have the top 5 services that I have running in the production cluster. The shopping service is the one that is running hot, while front-end, session, payments, and checkout, they are actually running fine. And you can see that the latency and the shopping service CPU utilization, they are trending the same.
Yeah.
So,
and tell me, these are just standard metrics from CloudWatch. These are not some specific.
That is correct.
Okay, and it supports all the metrics you get into CloudWatch.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, awesome.
So
can you show us the SQL command? Like this is
all
all fun with
Hold
building.
on a second. Hold on a second. I'm gonna get there.
Here's where the magic happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So let me just clean up a little bit the graph here. So I can do the top one just to make it clear that this is our problem. So we can see CPU and latency, they're trending very similarly. So I can now say that I have a latency problem. This is located on my CPU increase in my shopping service. Now, one thing I can do to understand why this is happening is I can go to the browse my metric, go back into my online bookstore, and choose my request count. So I can see whether this is matching with an increase in request. Now, if we go into the graph metric session, I can hide the latency for a second. I can make the request count to be a sum of the request, move this on the right, and off you go, right? So we can actually see that we have CPU utilization, and we have an increase in requests from less than 500 up to 4,000. So today is Cyber Monday, so probably there is some book that is selling super fast, and we have a lot of requests that are actually hitting our service. So at this stage, we can, Metrics Insight has told us that we can go on ECS with the specific cluster, we identified the specific service, and we can provision more capacity or adjust our auto-scaling policy. Now, all of this could have been done with a single click. So if we were using the Add Query button, I can actually select the ECS. I can click on top 10 services by CPU utilization, and I can see here that we have a different query. We have, the filter by, it's disappearing. So we're not filtering by a specific cluster, but we can actually use multiple groups. So we can use cluster name and service name, and we can see the first one, so prod ordering cluster, shopping service is the one running hot. Now, Metrics Insight Query Builder behind the scenes is generating SQL queries for us, as Amor mentioned before. We can look at them and interact with them just by clicking on the editor button. Here, we're going to see the different SQL statement that has been generated for us automatically from Metrics Insight's query editor. And we can also change that. For instance, if we do limit, we want to change the limit to be 5, we have another suggestion there, and then we can run the query. And then if we go back to the builder, we can see that also the builder gets updated.
I love the builder. I love the fact that we have the builder here, because not everybody's experienced with the way they can build SQL queries here. But I also love the fact that you get an actual SQL query that you can store and use and modify directly right there and then.
And the editor is very important, right? Because you can start your experience with the builder or the editor, depending on, if you are familiar with the SQL or not. But most importantly, once you have the SQL query generated for you, you can use that with get metric data.
Yes.
So to get metrics using CDK, CLI, also CloudFormation. And once you...
I have a question. Can I just stop you here? It's a question for Andrea or Omur here. We have a question from Twitch coming from RMO SWI asking, will there be an interface connecting CloudWatch Metrics Insights, and QuickSight? A lot of customers use QuickSight to do some SQL-based things with data. Is there a way to do this right now?
In this is something that we are working on. So we are talking to different services within Amazon to integrate CloudWatch Metrics Insights with the other services, with the ones especially using SQL. So this is something that we are currently working on. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Food for thought. So awesome. Yeah. Andrea, please continue.
Yeah, okay. So once I'm happy with my graph, what I can do is I can click on action here, and I can actually add my graph into a dashboard. Right. So I can select a dashboard. Let's make it the demo dashboard. I can add to it. I can adjust my widget size, and then I can save it for later to look at it. Now, for convenience, I have created an EC2 instance status summary that is all powered by Metrics Insights queries. So here you can see in this dashboard there are different slices of your metrics. For instance, you can see the top 10 CPU utilization instances, or the top 10 idle. So if you are not using EC2 instances properly and you have spare capacity, you can free it up. But you can also have a fleet-wide aggregation. So you can see the fleet-wide CPU utilization, or you can use Metrics Insight to generate EC2 API usage. Yeah. So even with CloudWatch usage metrics, and you can do this also with the other AWS metrics like disk activities to check for the top 10 disk reads or writes, and also network activities to see the top 10 instances with network inside, incoming, and network out. Now, so far we've seen this experience working very nice with AWS metrics, but this is Metrics Insights works with all metrics, even custom metrics. For example, we have installed the the CloudWatch agent into our EC2 instances, and we can see that we can generate pretty interesting slices of our metrics. So, for example, we can have the disk usage by auto-scaling group. So you can see how your disk is utilized based on the auto-scaling groups that you have, or the memory usage by instance type. So whether your instance types are performing the way you would expect. Or for instance, you can also look at the CPU usage by availability zone. And this pinpoints that we have one availability zone that is running hotter than others, so we can balance them out. And similarly, process count. So we can see the process count by software version. Now, it's important to mention here that the queries that we've seen, they stay accurate as resources come and go. So you write your query once, and it can stay there even forever, because in the example of our ECS cluster, we have grouped by our cluster name or our service name. And if we were to deploy new clusters or new services, your graphs, your metric will update automatically without you doing any action at all. Once you get your query there, you can evolve your infrastructure or evolve your application, and all the new metrics flowing in will be captured by Metrics Insight that will be available for you. Okay. And it's worth to notice that Metrics Insight is available already in the console, so you can try it starting now.
I think this is an amazing feature, because you get so much metrics into your AWS account, metrics from different types, and sometimes getting the proper information, the proper actionable items and proper data out of those metrics can be, let's say, a daunting task. So I think this is just a wonderful thing that can help you actually wrangle this data, right? So and there's a question here from the same person as well. Support for where clauses, like between, in, not in, like, string, those kind of more quote-unquote advanced SQL language. Do we support that?
So we have been in beta for a couple of months with some of our customers, and we have been collecting feedback from them. And after this launch for our preview, we're just going to be collecting feedback from our other customers. Right. So based on the prioritization and asked, we're just going to have them in our backlog and then plan accordingly.
Awesome, excellent.
I actually have a question though. Sometimes these query engines and analytical tools can actually be quite challenging to onboard. So how is the getting started and onboarding process when it comes to this?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, and also as you have seen on the demo, it's really easy to use, because in our working backward studies, when we were talking to our customers, when we started developing the project, they were all saying similar things as Darko said. So they have lots of metrics, they have lots of resources, and they have difficulty to start where, right? Yeah. So this is why they were all saying us that they would like to have a visual query builder first, that's going to list them all the available resources, metrics, etc. They're just going to start creating their queries by selecting them. And afterwards, if they want to go dive deep and maybe have more complex queries, then they were asking to go for a query editor that they're just going to type in their raw SQL queries. So this is why we have created this easy-to-use tool, and also providing some sample queries, as Andre already shared. So you just select that query, hit run, and it just returns you all the metrics that you're looking for.
Yeah, it's It's also worth to mention here that there is no onboarding for using Metrics Insights. So
Yeah.
Metrics Insights works for all metrics that are out there. So
Yep.
no work required for any customer. You don't have to change your metric, publish in a specific way, or agent running. None of them. You can use Metrics Insights with all the metrics that you have today in your account
Nice.
without doing
Yeah.
any work.
No setup, no
Even
development.
custom metrics. If
That
we
is
should,
correct. Even custom
Amazing.
metrics.
amazing. No, definitely observability is one of the key features you need to have in a proper scalable cloud scale environment, and this definitely helps you see more things in a better way. So make sure to check that out. Before we continue, is this generally available right now?
That is correct.
Yep.
Awesome. And how much money does it cost? What's the pricing? What's the pricing model on this thing?
So it is free of charge on the console.
Okay.
And as Andreas said, it's also available through programmatic access. So customers can use the Get Metric Data API calls to access Metrics Insights and to power their dashboards that they have on other dashboarding tools, for instance. And it is charged based on the number of metrics that are analyzed
Okay.
using our existing Get Metric Data pricing.
Okay. Awesome. Well, excellent. Thank you, Omur. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for the wonderful demo. Chat, reInvent, people watching this. Check out AWS CloudWatch Metrics
Check it out.
Insights. Yeah, check it out and flex your SQL skills, I guess, for some more observability. We're gonna come around back with something completely different, not CloudWatch this time, something different, but something very, very fun. So stay tuned for the very loud music.